Hey everyone, once again, it's your Rocket Rack guide, Josh, and I want to thank you for joining me for the final installment in our tutorial series on how to use the Rocket Rack Configurator. I hope you've been following along until now, where you've learned how to create trapeze and post assemblies as well as flat rack wall assemblies inside the configurator, because now we're about to jump in and learn how to do direct-to-wall mount assemblies. Let's get started. All right, here we are at the home screen of the configurator. Remember, if you need to create a new project, you can just go right here to the new project button. Otherwise, you can start with an existing project. Here's my configurator example project where we have line items for every assembly I've created so far for this series. And again, for each individual line item, you can export the BOM, you can edit, you can export the PDF drawings, you can duplicate them, or you can trash them. And then of course, queue all will queue the PDF drawings for all of the line items here to be exported. So let's get started with our final example. Go to Add, Direct Mount to Wall. Now in this case, there's not going to be any rack involved at all. As you can see here, what has been generated is a single pipe clamp. So this is when you are directly mounting a pipe clamp to a wall, whether that's a regular wall or an IMP wall in your facility, whatever it may be. We've got our single clamp rendering here. So before we do anything else, we got to fill out the assembly details. And as you may recall, these are all designations for where this will go in your facility, any kind of special notes that will apply to that, as well as the date required that it needs to be on site. So I'm going to fill those out now. All right, we are all set on assembly details. So first up is attachment. We've got our component type here. Right now it's a pipe clamp. We can choose pipe clamp, sanitary clamp, or box. If we stick with pipe clamp, you can adjust the spacer, whether it is a 1-inch or a 2-inch spacer, or whether it's food grade or industrial. Food grade will be tapered with a hygienic gasket that's blue, and industrial will be cylindrical with no gasket. If we switch this back to food grade and 1-inch, that looks pretty good to me. Or you can choose to change it to a wall plate, which, as we learned in our last video, is secured with 2 fab lock fasteners. And we have another blue hygienic gasket here. And for a wall plate, you can change the standoff height between 2 inches and 4 inches. Under component type, again, you can switch from pipe clamp to sanitary clamp, and you have the same options. Let's change the mounting type to a spacer. A 2-inch food grade spacer. It's tapered with our blue hygienic gasket, and we've got a sanitary clamp. That's looking pretty good to me. Now, if we go to the Part Children's tab and hit sanitary clamp, we can change the type of sanitary clamp it is between 2-piece for stainless, 2-piece for PVC coated, or the process hex clamp. The process hex clamp does look a little different, so that will change in the rendering. So let's keep it at a process hex clamp with a diameter of 1.5 inches. And that is pretty much it for what you can do with clamps direct mounted to walls. If we go back to direct mount and change it back to pipe clamp, then we can go to pipe clamp in the Part Children tab and change the type of pipe clamp it is. We've got sanitary hinged clamp for conduit or industrial 2-piece clamp for conduit. So let's say we wanted this to be an industrial installation. We're not really worried about hygiene necessarily. We can change this to an industrial 2-piece clamp, whatever the diameter may be, 1.25 inches. And then we might go back and change the spacer to an industrial spacer. And the bill of material will update with that information. So that's pretty much everything for clamps direct mounting to walls. But you also have the option here to mount a box directly to the wall. And that's going to populate our rendering here with 4 spacers. And we have the ability to change the mounting types between spacers and wall plates. I'm going to go back to spacers for the purposes of this exercise. And we can change the spacer length between 1 and 2 again. Change the grade from industrial to food if you so desire. We'll get those tapered spacers there with the hygienic gasket. And there you have it. Now you can change the specifics of how it's mounted by hitting Direct Mount Box under the Part Children's tab. You can change the representative size of the box. Now, if you'll remember from my last video, the box is just a representation. It's not being added to the bill of material. What is being added is the spacers and how it's being mounted to the wall, those parts. So if we wanted the box to be 24 inches high, whatever the case for that might be, with a width of 12, let's say, and it could be 4 inches deep, and let's say that the box thickness is 1/2 inch. That seems to be pretty thick, and that will adjust. And as you can see here, it's even made an allowance for how thick the box is. Let's go ahead and switch this back to the standard 0.125. And from here, you can change how the mounting holes are distributed from center. So vertically, you're probably going to want it to be mounted a little closer, to the edges, kind of spreading that mounting force out a little bit. So let's change the vertical hole distribution from center to be 10. And so it's going to be spread 10 inches from center, and that's still accurate. It's not interfering anywhere. Horizontally, we might do something, kind of similar, say 4 inches distributed from center to kind of push everything out to the corners. And if you wanted to, you could change the vertical hole offset to adjust, where the vertical holes are on the box. So the top set has been lowered, and so is the bottom set, so that a bit more of the box is left up here at the top above our spacers. I'm going to reset that for now. You can do the same thing with the horizontal hole offset for whatever the need for that might be. So once we decide that we're done with our direct mount assembly here, we can go to Actions, hit Q Exports, and of course that's going to generate the PDF drawings that you can view. And while it's being exported, you can check its progress under the Jobs tab, and then access it once it's done from the Documents tab. While we're waiting, as usual, I will download the BOM, the spreadsheet, where we can see the parts needed to create this installation. All right, this PDF is pretty simple. You've got our 3D drawing of the sanitary clamp and the 2-inch tapered spacer, and we've got the complete measurements. And on page 2 is the complete parts list with the weight of each item as well. All right, let's take a quick look at the bill of materials here. We've got the parts that we need to create this installation, and we can see here the sanitary 2-piece clamp for 1 1/4 conduit, as well as our hygienic tapered spacer with a threaded hole that's 2 inches long and a 3/8 inch hex nut. All right, we've reached the end of our journey exploring the Rocket Rack Configurator and all of its endless possibilities. There's still more left for you to discover for yourself. So I hope you take the time, try it out for yourself, and see how the configurator can help you save time and labor setting up your next Rocket Rack installation. What used to take days of delicate planning can now be accomplished in minutes. And let's be honest, it's kind of fun too. So I've appreciated you following me along with this video series, and I hope you get a lot out of the configurator moving forward. This is your Rocket Rack guide, Josh, signing off.